I've never felt as fearful about this country as I feel now. There was a report the other day that said white Brits would be the minority by, I think, in the next 40 years because of immigration. People are frightened of that. I do think Trump's on the spectrum as well, by the way. I do, because...
All right, Dr. Malone.
No, but he has no filter with anyone, not just with women. He has no filter with anyone. All the people who are doing this nonsense, this woke nonsense, inclusive. Christmas is a Christian tradition.
Mm-hmm.
You can either be included in it or not. You don't have to be, but if you want to be, you can. But you can't make it suit everyone.
Happy Hump Day and welcome to the Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Anisiobi, and despite me sending several anonymous complaints to Ofcom, she's still here, the formidable Carole Malone.
You'll be gone before me.
Have you been, Cass?
You know, got a bit cold today. It's frozen out there. I've got a thick jumper on for the first time this year.
It looks good though.
Well, thank you. It's a bit of colour, but it was just bad out there this morning.
Freezing. Snowing when I left my house.
Well, it was snowing, then the pouring rain.
Yeah.
I know you said a bad word there. Pouring rain, and now it's just cold.
I was going to make a joke about you being miserable like the weather, but I'm better than that.
I'm not miserable. I'm never miserable. I'm never miserable. I'm not. I get angry, Mrs. Angry, but not miserable.
Full of wind. Anyway, yesterday I called Shabana Mahmood the Iron Lady of Labour, and this moniker looks like it's going to stick. The Home Secretary has shown that she really is not messing about, as she confirms children born in the UK to refugees will be deported. The Home Office has confirmed children will be required to leave the country with their parents if the refugee status was revoked. This decision is to ensure there are no perverse incentives for refugees to have children in the UK on the basis that they can stay. Now, Carole, is this Shabana Mahmood being callous, heartless, or is this someone who's willing to make tough decisions that nobody really wants to have to make, but they've got to happen?
You know, on the surface to some, it might sound callous because kids are involved. And if you're talking about moving kids from a country where they've lived for 3 or 4 years, yeah. But it isn't cruel. Kids move all the time, People emigrate. Parents emigrate with their kids. They go and start somewhere else. And let's be clear. The kids who are made, if it ever happens, who are made to leave with their families will only be being sent home to safe countries, countries where they came from originally, which might not have been safe, but which now are safe. So what's the problem in sending someone back to the country where their parents came from? It happens all of the time. She had to get tough on this. This is a disincentive. Because we know that people use the word perverse incentive there. People do come here, and people who come here illegally, and they meet someone from this country, and they purposely have a child, whether they want one or not, because they know that allows them more time in this country and perhaps forever time in this country, because they know that they can appeal under Article 8 of the Human Rights Act, which says people in this country have a right to a family life. So we have to stop that. We have to break that model. We've got to, we can't be having endless numbers of people come into this country that we cannot afford, we cannot house, we cannot afford to strain on our infrastructure. We cannot keep having these people here and then them having children, and we're having to pay for those as well. It's not on. And I think I was really surprised at Shabana Mahmood, because I remember her going to Greece and sitting on a beach to welcome refugees coming off boats. I remember her signing that letter that stopped a whole plane load of foreign criminals from being deported. One of those criminals went on to murder someone. So, it was a surprise to me that she's being as tough as she's being. But hopefully it's because she sees that what is happening now is unsustainable. She sees that for British people, it is illegal immigration is the single biggest problem for them. And it's not simply because of numbers. It's because they see people who have come here illegally, who are doing nothing for this country, getting perks and privileges and benefits and houses that lots of British people aren't getting. We have veterans in this country sleeping on the streets, people who have fought for this country. And yet we have illegal immigrants coming in who straight away get, has a hotel or a flat or whatever. So I think she sees the detrimental that is, in fact, having on British people. She hears their anger, she sees what's happening, but also economically it's unsustainable for us. And she sees, that we pay something like $3 billion a year, it's about 2.8 billion a year for refugees and asylum seekers. That is unsustainable. So yes, and the idea, this country used to be. In fact, Wes Streeting said this weird thing the other day. He said there is now a rising tide of racism in this country, and Shabana Mahmood kind of said the same thing. She said she had been called, and we know what she said, don't we?
The
in the
P
comments.
word, yeah.
She was called the P word with an F in front of it. So, but none of that's what this is about. Mm-hmm. That is racism in its purest form, what Shabana Mahmood was talking about, what's happened to her, and it's disgusting. But it's not, it's what people are doing in this country in objecting to illegal immigration is not racist. And as I say, Streeting said this thing, he said there's been a rising tide of racism. No, what's happening is there's a rising tide of Britishness where people are sick of their compassion, their culture, their traditions, all being eroded because of what's happening in terms of immigration. So I think this is great from Shabana Mahmood. She has said, even yesterday, she said she's not going to row back on the families thing. I think a lot of people thought she would buckle like Starmer buckles every time he says something important. He buckles the next day when he gets criticised. She's not buckling, and she's saying, no, this has to happen. And I, for one, am very glad about that. All of that said, I don't think any of these things are going to happen because, her own party are against her on this. They don't want to control illegal immigration. Some of the idiots in her party this week have used words like to describe her reforms as dystopian, disgraceful. What's disgraceful and what's shameful is what's happening to the people of this country who are having to foot the bill for out-of-control immigration. It's not racist to want to control your country's borders, and that's what she's trying to do. But the people of her own party are going to scupper that. And even if she does get any of these reforms through, I think it could take between 1 and 2 years to happen, and they will be watered down so as to mean nothing in the end. But, good on her for having a go. And I hope she does get some of them through. It's important, because if she doesn't, Labour will never be elected for the next 30 years. They just won't.
You're a fan of Miss Mahmood.
Yes.
Would this make you a Labour voter now?
Oh, God, no. She's a kind of a bit of a bright spark in a pool full of numpties, No, I will, I was a Labour voter until I was 45. Until Blair's third term.
That was a long time ago.
Shut your mouth. No, I'm never. It's not even like what I voted Labour a year and a half ago. Maybe, could have been, had they come in and done what they said they were going to do. But no, they haven't. They lied. They got in on a raft of lies, and they're still lying. Mahmood is good, but, I think she will be done down by her own party. Who live in a dream. They live in this idealistic dream world where let's have everyone from all over the world and let's take care of them. And I heard some Labour MPs in Parliament the other day still pushing this lie that everyone who comes on the boats are coming from war-torn countries. They're fleeing war and persecution, when we know that is not the case. We know that more than 80% of the people coming on those boats are economic migrants. They want a better life. And I don't blame them. But we can't be expected to pay for it.
Yeah. Pakistani nationals have become the most common nationality for asylum claims in the UK.
Yeah.
They're not coming on the small boats specifically. They're coming on planes or whatever, and they're applying from wherever they can apply from. But Pakistan is refusing to take back. If we can convict people of being rapists, paedophiles in this country, Pakistan refuse to take them back. And there's so many loopholes in our laws that two of the ringleaders from the Rochdale grooming gangs, two of them renounced and gave up their Pakistani passports and nationality so they could remain in the UK. Now, that is annoying, and that should be dealt with, and we've got to close the loopholes in the law. But who are these lefty lawyers and lefty charities that are going to these criminals and saying to them, if you want to stay in the country, here's what you've got to do?
Well, and that's what happens. We know that happens every single day, you know. But not just the lawyers. We now have activist judges in this country who were lefty lawyers at one point and who did spend careers, getting illegal migrants into this country. She has to clamp down on them, and because the thing is, you know, whatever she says she's going to do in terms of telling them they're not, you know, the judges, for instance, then they must stop allowing people with spurious excuses to stay. She can tell them that as much as she likes, but until we leave the ECHR, none of that can happen. You know, the way the Human Rights Act and the ECHR works now. Yes, we could deport people. Other countries are doing it. Other countries in Europe are doing it as we speak. Yeah. But it's the way the judges in this country are interpreting Article 8 and Article 3. And they're interpreting it in a way that suits them, that suits their agenda, which is a left-wing agenda, which is an immigration-friendly agenda. So until we leave the ECHR, Shabana Mahmood is not going to be able to get a hold on those judges. She's not going to be able to deport the people she says she's going to deport. She says she's going to only allow people one asylum claim. You know, it's all fantastic, but, you know, she stole most of those ideas from Denmark, who have implemented them incredibly successfully. And why? Because their centre-left government wanted to. They wanted to control immigration. Now they return 95% of failed asylum seekers within days of their asylum claims failing. They have the lowest asylum rate in 40 years. Now, I've been to Denmark. And it's an incredible country. It's not a dystopian country. It's not a cruel country. It's an incredibly sophisticated country. And I've interviewed migrants who have settled there who love it because they like the fact the rules are strict. They like the fact that it's not that easy to get in. And if you get in, you're one of the chosen ones. Yeah. And they love the country. Now, and so it's worked there. But it's not like that here because we have a left-wing government that doesn't want to close our borders, doesn't want to control immigration.
But is it not too late for us to do this in Britain? Because my grandmother was an immigrant who moved to Denmark. She had Danish nationality.
Yeah, so you know.
Yeah, loved the country. Yeah. But one of their rules they have there is they call it this parallel society, where if there's an area of Copenhagen, for example, where there's more than 50% of people who are not native Danes, then they move them around, disperse them. Yeah,
and it's absolutely the right thing to do. It's not cruel. They just see what would happen if they don't, and we've seen it here. We have no-go areas in our country now, where certain people can't go into certain areas. That cannot be the case. We're just too weaselly here. You know, we spend the whole time being terrified of offending people who are coming here to rip us off, to commit crimes, to work on the what do you call the black market. Yeah. They're not coming here to put money into our society and to our government to pay their way. They're not. They're coming because they know they can scam us, because they know we're stupid. And other countries have now, you know, immigration is going down in Germany, in France, in Italy, because all those countries have got tough and they're chucking them out and they're ignoring the ECHR and just doing what's best for their country. Yeah. But we're not.
An investigation by an ordinary British citizen has uncovered the absurd reality of our asylum system. Emma Parr, who heads up Chelmsford Safety Watch, Women and Children First, obtained the footage of male asylum seekers at RAF Wethersfield being filmed singing and dancing in a common room complete with a disco ball and glittering lights. There were also clips of fighting while security guards sit idly, filming the frivolities. Here's a clip.
Calm down, that's it. Calm down.
Carole, my friend Martin Gauci of Gauci Reports, he's a citizen journalist. He brought these videos to my attention, and then he put me in touch with Emma, who has been doing the research and the groundwork in this. So, first of all, big thank you to Emma and Martin for that.
Absolutely.
But what does this tell us about the asylum system?
Yeah, when you see videos like that, it fuels the anger that is already there. You know, were these guys fleeing war and persecution? I don't think so. Not a woman or child in sight in there. And where did they get the disco ball? Where's that? Who's paid for that? Who's actually paying for them to have a party? I keep on being told, by left wingers that they only get 40 quid a week. Really? Did they only get 40 quid a week? I'm not actually buying that. But who's allowing that party to happen? I'm not saying it should also be pointed out at this same RAF camp, they have cricket, they have football, they have baseball, they have basketball, they have a gym there. So it's a bit like a holiday camp. It's what you get when you go to Butlins, So why are they, it's like, it's no wonder they want to come here. It's no wonder they're risking that channel crossing, because when they get here, it's party time. It's, it's money. It's living off the stage. And, you've got those security guards sitting there doing nothing. And one of them attacked one of the security guards. Now, there should be a rule. You attack a member of staff, you're gone. Yeah. Just deported. If you're going to start hitting people who are there to look after you, just get out. But that sort of scene fuels everything that people are angry about. Because, these guys aren't in any form of distress. They haven't gone through any form of suffering. They're having a good time. They got here. No wonder they're having a bloody party, because they know they're never going to be chucked out now. This is like easyville for them now. And I just think, British people have we've seen so much over the past few years. I really feel like this country now is a tinderbox. I think we're on the verge of something terrible. We saw demonstrations last weekend about a whole load of people being moved into another detention camp. If you come here, you can't be having a good time if you're put in detention. You can't be having parties. They can even leave this camp and get a bus into the nearby town and do whatever it is they want there. It's not on.
Yeah. So at this particular camp, the RAF one, there are minibuses put on for them that take them in the mornings to town, and they pick them up at 7 p.m. There's footage of that also online on social media. And the locals in Chelmsford have said they've reported them to the police because they've been finding bin bags lined with tinfoil with some of these guys that have been going to town and stealing from the shops.
Of course. And what are they going into town for? They're not going to look at the sites, are they? They're going in for a reason, and they're going in to commit crime. The idea that I keep getting attacked for demonising illegal immigrants, but the bottom line is, we know statistically they're committing crimes. We know they're attacking women. We know they're causing chaos in whatever community that they're put into. They're young, military-age men between 18 and 34. They're going to go looking for women. They just are. And they're allowed to. They're allowed to do that. But, also at this camp, they also get art lessons. They get music lessons. They get English lessons.
Well, I think English lessons is a good thing for them to have.
Yeah, but that's all they should have. Art. Do you think they're really interested in art?
Well, look,
they're more interested in going into the local town and nicking from the shops.
If you've got a hotel full of, let's say, 100 men, and there's nothing for them to do.
I know what you're saying.
I think it will get worse. I think their behaviour would become worse if they're born with nothing on. So I think giving them English lessons, having a gym, I think that's adequate.
You say it's adequate, but what it is, it's facilitating people coming here illegally. There should be,
So you want them to be kept in almost like prison cells and
do you know what I wish?
Allowed out
I
a
wish
certain amount of hours a day.
The Tories put together a law which was in place, which was repealed by Labour as soon as they got into power, where they said if you come into this country illegally or without papers, you're straight out. There's no argument, no discussion. You're not going through any process. You're straight out. That's what happens in Denmark.
Yeah.
If they have no papers, Denmark just sends them straight back again. Here they chuck their papers away because they know if they've got no papers, we don't know where to send them to. We don't know where their home is, and so they do that on purpose. We've got to be cleverer about how we deal with this problem. We've got to look to other countries, and Mahmood has looked to Denmark. But when we decide to bring in when we decide on these reforms, we have to just be, we have to be clear about the implementation of them and not be weaselly and not have, people like Jeremy Corbyn screaming, this is dystopian, this is shameful. No, it's not shameful. It's not shameful to want to control your country's borders, and it's not racist either. But you can see why people get angry. A lot of British people now are living on hard times, and they see this and they think, oh my God, we can't afford parties. We can't do what they're doing. We can't, we can't live cost-free because everything they want they get is paid for. So you can see where the anger comes from. So it's not just them that are going to get angry with nothing to do. Brits are going to get angry with them. And that's why, I can see some kind of civil war happening in this country. It's kind of happening already. We see it. We see the disturbance in the streets. So I've never felt as fearful about this country as I feel now. And also people are angry that we used to be a very compassionate country for people fleeing war and persecution. And I was proud of that. I was proud of that record. But our hospitality has been paid on now by people. We've been made mugs of, and that's where the anger comes from. And I just fear for where it's all going to end. There was a survey, there was a report the other day that said white Brits would be the minority by, I think, in the next 40 years.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Because of immigration. People are frightened of that. They're frightened of it.
But I would say that statistic suggests was essentially saying Nigel Farage, he's married to a German woman, his kids are white, but because the mum is German, they class that child to be not British then.
I think it's not as much to do with the non-white thing. I think it's to do with the cultural and the religious thing that goes with people who are not white. I think that is the problem. They're saying there will be more Muslims in this country than there will be Christians in the next 20 to 50 years.
That's easy to solve. We just have to start going to church. I'm there every Sunday.
Well,
come join us.
I know what you're saying. I'm a Catholic, and disgracefully, I haven't been to church for a long time. But I do live by my religion's rules. I do. Mm-hmm. I am a Catholic in my heart, and.
But I know when you go to church, it's like you catch on fire, you start screaming. As soon as you step across that
why am I screaming?
Because you're the devil.
Oh, sorry. I'm the devil. No, I'm scared of the devil. When you're a Catholic, you're very scared of the devil. Trust me. You're taught that it's bad news. I also believe I suffer Catholic guilt. I mean, I don't know whether that's you, but if I have a go at somebody, I mean, like I had a go at a lady in traffic the other week. She was messing about, and I overtook her, and then I realised she was quite old.
Oh, older than you?
Yes, she was old.
So she was really old. She was ancient then.
She was ancient. And my husband went to me, "You'll be proud of yourself now, are you?" And so when we stopped at lights, I got out of the car and I went to the window. I think she thought I was going to attack her or something. And I just said, I'm really sorry, you shouldn't have done that. And she went, oh, and the relief on her face, because she really thought I was coming to get her, I think.
Yeah.
And I said, that was my bad. I should not have done that. I should not have shouted at you like that. And it was lovely. And I got back in the car and my husband went, good girl. but if I hadn't done that, I'd have been plagued by guilt.
Yeah.
That's what Catholicism does to you.
Yeah.
You can't be horrible, or you can, but you have to correct it immediately.
Yeah, good. I can't wait for you to apologise to me for all the horrible things you say about me.
What after you've just said to me about my age and all the rest of it, about being Methuselah? Okay, yeah. So I'll wait until. So what kind of Christian are you?
A bad one.
Yeah, clearly.
Over to the USA now, where President Trump has been trying to keep a lid on the Epstein scandal, which he has been sucked into after a weekend of leaked emails where his name started popping up again. Naturally, this topic came up when Trump was fielding questions on Air Force One, and his response to one Bloomberg reporter was quite cutting. Have a look.
Incriminating in the file, Venezuela, sir. Why are you acting as a Venezuela, sir? You've had a lot of.
I've been told off by some of the women in the office already for saying that I thought it was quite funny. Right? Yes, it's offensive, but if he'd said it to a man, quiet piggy, I would have also found it very funny. It's unpresidential, but it's Trump.
It is Trump, and I mean, I thought it was pretty disgusting. Especially to a woman, because women are very conscious about more than men, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a stupid thing to say, but I think they are about the way they look and about their weight and all the rest. Anyway, I thought it was a pretty disgusting thing to say. And there isn't really an excuse for it. And it is totally unpresidential. I mean, no one in that kind of position should be calling women piggy, pigs, pig, whatever, nothing.
Yeah.
However, judging from what I've read, he has history with this woman. She's... and I've been at press conferences, and I know it's irritating for whoever... the journalists are there asking the questions. I know it's irritating if journalists keep on interrupting you all the time. They don't let you get to the end of what you're trying to say.
Yeah. And
And I would go mad if I was the person on the stage. And And I think this lady does that quite a lot with Trump. And I think he kind of snapped on this day. It's not an excuse for that language, but he did also say to her, "Will you let me get to the end of my sentence?" And that is very irritating of someone. She's obviously a Democrat. She obviously hates him. And she's needling him at every turn, knowing he's going to lose it and do something disgusting. She'll be probably quite happy with this, I would think, at the end of the day. But I just think what this sort of... I mean, I do think Trump's on the spectrum as well, by the way. I do, because...
All right, Dr. Malone.
No, but he has no filter with anyone, not just with women. He has no filter with anyone. And whatever's in his head comes out of his mouth. And that's not a good thing when you're the leader of the free world.
Yeah.
So, I think he is a bit on the spectrum, and he's not able to necessarily to control what he says. No excuse, but I think that's part of the problem. But what this does is detract from all the good things he might be doing and all the changes he's making and all the things he has done good so far as president. For his detractors, it's gold. They want to hear that. And it's a shame, because I think if he just stopped all that and got on with I think he's probably better at this job than the last 3 or 4 incumbents. So,
but
there's that.
If it was a male journalist who had been called piggy, do you think that people would be making as big a deal about it?
They wouldn't be making as big a deal about it, but I think they would still think it was unprecedented. They would still think it was very rude. They would still think that the president of the United States should not be talking to anyone like that. But that is part of Trump's trademark. He just says it as it is.
Yeah.
And journalists around the world would be bereft if he didn't, because there'd be nothing to report most of the time if he didn't say crazy things. But I do think he could be a good president in the end. I think he could make things good. Well, he's doing it already for America. And that is his goal, America first. But this is detracting from the agenda. This is detracting from what he wants to do. And it just confirms Democrats and other people's worst suspicions that he's a yob and he's a lout and you shouldn't be doing it.
But it reminds me of when Farage was speaking to another journalist who's also... Both these women are from Bloomberg. Wow. Michelle Hussein, and she was asking questions about Putin, and Farage said to her, "Love, okay, you're trying very hard, love. Love, you're trying very hard, love. You're trying very hard, love." And Farage got lambasted for that, for calling her love.
Love is kind of,
it's kind of patronising.
It's a belittling, patronising word, and I'm sure... I don't even know if Farage would have meant it like that, because that's how he talks to people. But
he wouldn't call... I've interviewed him many times. He doesn't call me love.
Well, of course he
might call me mate or whatever.
He might call you mate, but that's kind of the equivalent, isn't it?
But I think Trump would call a man piggy. I think Trump has said much worse things about men as well in the past.
Which is why I say I think he's a bit on the spectrum. I think there is no filter in his brain. So, you think of the things that he said in the past. This is the least of the bad things he's actually said. Yeah. But, he says outrageous things, and it's just like it's in his head, and woof, before you know it, it's around the world in every media outlet. So he should be able to control that, but clearly he can't. And the furore over this, he won't care about it. He literally won't care.
Yeah.
And if someone says to him you shouldn't have, he'd go, and then move on next.
Yeah.
He wouldn't care.
They're calling it Britain's biggest ever fly tip, and it's easy to see why. In just a matter of months, a 150-metre rubbish pile has emerged beside the A34 in Oxfordshire, and it's one of the most disgusting things you have ever seen. The heap is thought to contain waste from councils and schools, and residents say trucks dumped material there nightly for months. A barrister claims it points to major corruption in waste handling, while the Environment Agency has launched a criminal probe and secured a court order to shut down the site. Carole, is this like a very real metaphor for the state of our country at the moment?
Yeah, I think it kind of is. But what makes me laugh here is there's nothing funny about it. Because you said how high it was, but people who don't work in meters, that's nearly 500 feet high. That's nearly 500 feet, long and 150 feet high. That's huge. But what's making me laugh here is Cherwell is the local council. And the Environment Agency is involved, and they're both blaming each other. Cherwell Council saying, well, this has nothing to do with us. Well, yes, it is, because it's been building up for months. Don't tell me they just discovered it yesterday, because they did not. It's been there, and they've known it's happening. And why didn't they? The Environment Agency doesn't have eyes everywhere. It depends on being told about disasters like this. So obviously no one from Cherwell Council thought it was worth reporting. And now the Environment Agency have launched a police probe as well. I mean, why don't they? Here's an idea. Why didn't they just send a whole load of cops quietly to the spot at night time and wait for some trucks to come?
Yeah.
Because the minute you arrest a couple of them, then the rest aren't going to come. They're going to say we can't do this now. But because they've had free reign, literally for months and months and months, they've kept coming. And what it is, it's people who are. It's obviously companies who don't want to pay to dump their rubbish in the designated, whatever they're called now, I don't know what they're called, refuse centres, whatever. You've got to pay if you've got a company. They obviously don't want to pay. So they're just sending their trucks out at the dead of night, which rather makes a nonsense of all our efforts to protect the planet. So there am I recycling like a good one every week and putting my things in the right colour bins. And you've got a whole environmental disaster happening not too far away, because that will pollute the land. It's polluting the river. It's God knows what damage it's going to do to the air and the surrounding areas. So all of these things we have to protect the environment, and they can't actually keep tabs on a 490-foot long river of waste.
Yeah, well, we have actually an eyewitness statement said that a few nights ago, a woman in a tangerine cardigan was seen dumping rubbish there as well. Loads of crisp packets and things and bottles of red wine.
I don't think she's the problem, do you? I'm not sure she's the problem. I think the trucks, I mean, it's not good, but she's not the problem. It's the trucks that are dumping the processed weights, the plastics, all that stuff. They're the problem, not the woman in the tangerine cardigan.
The woman in the tangerine cardigan, she had blonde hair, she was elderly.
I was just going to say.
And she was very rude to people, and then
apologised
afterwards.
So there was not a woman in the tangerine cardigan. I thought that was for real. I just didn't realise. And by the way, it's not tangerine.
What colour is it? Let me see.
It's called something orange.
Something orange.
Mandarin, something or other. I don't know. Anyway, no, but it's like these things are so solvable. You can't imagine if I was living in that village near where that's happening.
Yeah.
I would be on the council's back every other day. I seriously would, and I know that other people in the village would be. And the council knew about it, but chose to do nothing.
Yeah. Well, common sense ain't that common anymore.
No, it ain't.
It's Christmas! Or is it? The days are getting shorter, the weather's getting colder. It was even snowing earlier today in Canary Wharf. So people are starting to buy their Christmas trees. There's just one problem. They're not called Christmas trees anymore. They're now called evergreen trees. Boo! That's at least the case with Tesco, who have gone for this more inclusively named 60 quid tree. But that's not the end of it. Oh no, Tesco are also calling their classic Christmas cake fruit cake. It doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it, Cal?
This drives me honestly insane.
Yeah.
Because, a Christmas tree is a Christmas tree. All the people who are doing this nonsense, this woke nonsense, inclusive. Christmas is a Christian tradition. You can either be included in it or not. You don't have to be, but if you want to, you can. But you can't make it suit everyone. Just in the same way, Diwali can't suit everyone. I'm very happy about Diwali. I think it's a fantastic festival. It's very colourful. It's very lovely. I would never dream of objecting to it or trying to water it down what it actually is.
Yeah.
And yet the bods at Tesco have taken it upon themselves to do exactly. It's not a fruit cake. It's a Christmas cake. And it's not an evergreen, which is what they're calling them. It's a Christmas tree. And if you don't like our Christmas traditions, don't be here. I feel so sorry now. Schools are not allowed to call the play nativity play. They have to call it something else because the other cultures of children who might be in the classroom are offended. They never are. It's always white British people who take on the offence of other cultures, thinking we're going to butt out of it and just let us have our traditions. It's another reason why people get very cross about what's happening in our country, because our traditions, our values, our culture is being watered down so as not to offend other people. If you're offended by British culture, don't live in Britain. Go live somewhere else.
You know what's mad? When I lived in Dubai, Muslim country, a mosque no further than 8 minutes walk from anywhere in Dubai. Christmas, huge
Yes.
over there. The malls, you have Christmas markets,
Yes.
Christmas festive menus, and they say Christmas. They
Good.
won't say Happy Holidays, it was Christmas.
Exactly.
And they celebrated Eid. Eid was even bigger than Christmas over
Yes.
there, but they do everything. Why can we do it in Muslim countries?
Yes.
But in a
here.
Christian country, we're told, no, we're not going to call
Because
it
we're
Christmas.
terrified of offending Islam in this country in any way, shape, or form. And the stupid thing is, Muslims would not be offended by it. I mean, I'm happy for any celebration of anything because the world is in such a dire state at the moment. I want festivities all the time, but I don't want to interfere in other cultures' festivities. Do what they like.
Yeah.
I can either be part of it or not. I can choose. But all those festivals you mentioned, they're about lots of things. They're about lights. They're about making you feel good. They're about money.
Yeah.
All of those things. But I like it makes me feel good. Christmas.
Yeah.
I like it, and I don't want to have to. And I'm never saying fruitcake. I'm never saying evergreen tree. And if anyone says it to me, I'm going to call them out on it and just
Yeah.
say it's the blooming Christmas tree.
Good.
Stop it.
I would only say fruitcake to describe you.
You. Well, I was going
Yeah.
to say you right there now. I could have you with HR right now. I'm going to HR straight after this podcast.
Well, Carole, before you go, let me say thank you.
Well, that's
massive
good.
thank you to you.
Don't think that'll get you off because it won't. It will not.
The caffeine's worn off.
Merry
That is all we've got
Christmas.
time for. Cheers. Merry Christmas. It's vodka, by the way. Join us again tomorrow where I'm joined by Conservative MP Esther McVeigh. Cheers.